This lesson will focus on reviewing for the essays that you will be working on this week. Um, this one is an argumentative essay, and you'll see why in a second. They wrote it in a form of a letter. It depends what form they want you to use when they write the prompt on SBAC. I'm not sure. We have no idea how they're gonna format it, but in this case, it's a letter. Dear teachers, I have recently begun learning about the Shut Down Your Screen Week. This is a program where kids in school and out of school don't use any electronics for 1 week. Everyone in your school will participate. This is a way to save the way we think and try something new. My question is, should we participate in the National Shutdown Your Screen Week? I think it would be a good idea for many reasons. So here is their thesis statement. This is what they're going to argue for, that kids should shut down their electronics for a whole week. Right here we have some context of what they're going to write about. They don't really have a hook necessarily, it's just a statement. And then they go into the first body paragraph. First, I think we should participate because using too much technology affects the way we think and behave. So that's their reason, that's their claim again, their thesis statements, with their first piece of evidence, not their evidence, their first reason, because it impacts the way we think and behave. And then this person cites their source. In the article, attached to technology and paying a price by Mitt Reichel, it gives many scientific proven facts that using technology too much affects the way we think. This student is citing a source, which is great, and they also paraphrase, which is okay, but I prefer that you use quotes. If you are juggling email, phone calls, and other incoming information, you can lose people's focus. So here they're explaining. Also, another piece of evidence. So they have two pieces of evidence here, which is great. Also in the text, it states, the stimulation provokes excitement that researchers say can be addictive. It is in its absence, people feel bored. This means that people can become addicted and when not using technology, become bored with things they used to love to do. I would have expanded the explanation a little bit. So here you have their first reason. You have their first evidence here. This is from their source. And then you have their explanation, and then you have the second evidence, the same text, with their explanation. Okay? And then this second body paragraph. Another reason I think we should participate in this program is because using technology while doing something else really just creates more trouble focusing. So this is their second reason, right? Their second reason says that people should lay off the technology because it creates more trouble focusing. So that's their second reason. Scientists did an experiment where they took someone that multitasks and someone that doesn't. It was proven that even though the multitasker multitasks more, they did a worse job than other people. Therefore, technology and multitasking does nothing for you. The issue I have here is that there is no evidence to support this reason. Another reason I think we should participate in it is it puts a bad toll on children. Some people may say that playing a video game or watching a movie with your family helps bond with family. So here they have their counter argument. Some people may say that, wait, technology can actually be good because it helps the family come together. And then they have a rebuttal. So you acknowledge the rebuttal. You don't say, this is a great example. You acknowledge, you say, this may be true or that's a valid point. But you can get addicted and not want to do anything else. He or she has a piece of evidence. Lily, a second grader, is allowed only an hour a day of unstructured time, which she often spends with her devices. This shows that kids are playing on devices and not outside with friends. If we participate, we the kids can do other things and be more social. I'm not sure how I feel about this piece of evidence. The evidence that you select should weaken the counterclaim, right? the evidence that you have should weaken the counterclaim. Therefore, I think we should participate and let's shut down your screen time week. Thank you for your time. This conclusion is a little weak. I will expand a little more about what are some of the reasons why technology is it can be a problem with kids. So this is a argumentative essay. The argumentative essay, you have to have a counter argument. It is essential, it is imperative that you have a counter argument and that you prove or that you push yourself to disprove this counter argument. If you want to convince someone that if you want to convince someone of your arguments, you think about the counter argument and then you try to disprove it as best as you can. Okay. Now, let's dear teachers. Let's do this one. So this is a narrative. Now, with a narrative, there has to be some sort of conflict. Actually, I'm not gonna pick this one. There's another one that I like. This one. This is a narrative. Now, the narrative, you have to incorporate the sources, right? But you don't cite the sources directly. And in the narrative, you must have a problem. You must have a conflict that is resolved. Here you go, Dudley Inc. Think about the language that they use in this narrative. When you write a narrative, try to show us, not tell us. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So have a title, Dudley Inc., Queen Elizabeth I. So again, obviously this story is based on some sources that this student read. One tiny black leg gracefully swept forward. Then 5 more identical legs immediately followed. Distance covered is just slightly over a mere square of an inch. Carried on his face is no discernible expression. The same face carried from the first introduction to oxygen, to freedom, to life. The little bug paused shortly from its purposeful stride. Yes, indeed, there is much happening outside of the country of England. The year is 1587, so here they're giving us they're giving us some idea of what's happening in the story, right? They're giving us time. Everyone still wishes me to be married, but I do not think it is a wise idea. Should I hand my country over to someone else who will recklessly run England? No, I owe it to my subjects, to her people, to keep them safe as long as possible and for as long as I'm alive. I also, at the moment, need to keep my country safe from France and Spain, who seem to be plotting against me, planning to take over this country. So again, this obviously comes from the sources, right? However, my attention is focused on the bug, such a frail, helpless-looking character. The task at hand requires only a signature from me, my name written identically countless times before. The consequence of signing this paper are far bigger than any paper put forth in my past existence, unfortunately. This time, my signature meant the death of a fellow human being, my cousin, Mary, the Scottish Queen. The buck continues its deliberate march forward, this time coming closer to the figure standing across from me, the woman reading the paper. It seems to glance upward at my huge figure looming over, threatening, but at the moment sitting still. There is no question about what I must do. Mary has been kept in many different prisons here after being accused of plotting her husband's murder and after escaping prison in Scotland to come asking for my help. I had no choice but to keep her here. I have kept her here for over 20 years. I could not leave her helpless. Now, however, Mary is guilty of high treason. She was found to be communicating with France and Spain. She has been devising plans with them to take over England. To let her live would be wrong. Nevertheless, she is a relative of mine. In addition, she is a queen. How can I put to death royalty? The hand belonging to none other than me has to sign the paper for her death. Is there a special term for me giving approval for Mary to be killed? Regret, shame, murder? So the conflict here is that she must sign this document that will put her cousin to death. That is the conflict, right? Right now, we're getting close to the climax where we're going to figure out if she's going to sign it or not. A hand, seemingly unnoticed by the bug, raises into the air. So you'll see that the bug is a metaphor for Mary, right? Because the bug is going to be killed. My signature is the task at hand. My signature is Mary's death. The tip of my quill pen finds its way to the paper. My heart beat beat finds its rate speeding up. You see how here she doesn't say, "Oh, I became really nervous," or my heart was going by really fast." Instead, she says, "My heartbeat finds its rate speeding up." I just I look up just in time to see the hands of one of my guards falling, slicing. You see the word she's using here, or the student is using? Slicing through the air. A foot away from the table, half a foot, 2 inches. The little bug looks upward and at the hand falling above its back. It panics. The frail legs start to move as fast and almost faster than the bugs could. Then the bug knew it could. Then the bug knew Okay, let me read that again. The frail legs start to move as fast and almost faster than the bug knew it could. Not fast enough. So the bug will die. It's like a metaphor or for what's going to happen to Mary. A cold chill runs down my back, causing my hand to shake at the impact of the other hand hitting the table. On the other hand hitting the bug. I look down at my signature. Elizabeth. In the middle of the Z, there's a tiny fault where my hand slipped. So here we have kind of like the climax, right? Where she signs it, where we know what's gonna happen, what happened to the bug, what's gonna happen to Mary, and now we're going to have like the resolution. On the other hand, hitting the bug, I look down at my signature, Elizabeth. In the middle of the Z, there's a tiny fault where my hand slipped. The bump is hardly noticeable to those who could glance at my signature in the future. However, engraved in my mind is my name, holding the mistake of the Z, holding the bug's death, and holding Mary's death. So this is a narrative. Again, a narrative must have a conflict. The conflict in this one was, the signature, the document being signed to kill Mary, right? But she also uses very vivid language, and you can really see what's happening in the story, right? When you write a narrative, I should be able to visualize what is going on in the story, and with vivid language. Okay, so please make sure to do that. So we've done an argumentative, we did a narrative. So let's look at a an explanatory essay. So an explanatory essay, you need to demonstrate to the reader or teach the reader about a specific topic. It is not an argument. It is not a story. It is an essay that you are explaining something. You're informing people of something. So here, this person is writing about the Great Depression that happened in the 1920s and 30s in the United States. The Great Depression affected many people, especially those who lived through it. With that said, the main point of this essay is how people who lived through the Depression were affected during it. I think this is um, a weak introductory paragraph, right? I would have talked about what the Great Depression was, um, what was it, right? And that you learn from the sources. And then they could have talked about the reasons. They could have talked about how did it impact people. During the Great Depression, people had to deal with that made them struggle. That sentence doesn't make much sense. Some people didn't have an abundant amount of money, not a decent amount. Instead, they had little or none at all. It was a struggle to earn money. With the lack of jobs, especially people ended up doing side jobs to earn money. And then here they cite their sources, right? In digging in, the family of four had to find ways to obtain money. So here, again, I want you to use quotes, direct quotes, and not paraphrase. Then they ended up cutting back on a lot of things like the water system and starting using, so they have some misspelling here, it's an issue, their well. The father did his best to get some type of income by doing side jobs, like cutting the boy's hair for something, right? People also look for Roosevelt, the president, for help on farming for a decent, on farming or for a decent or better income. For instance, in the poem, so here they have another source. In the poem, Debt, the family owned land that they use. So here they need to have a quote, comma, the family owned land that they use for farming. The father grew wheat 3 years ago and hasn't been able to since. With scarce rain, no wheat grew. Without wheat to harvest, no money would flow in. Bay, the father, even thought about getting a loan from Mr. Roosevelt, and he promised he didn't have to pay a dime till the crops came in. And all he could do was hope things got better. Not only did people have, so this essay is not the best. There's a number of issues here. The biggest issue is this weak introduction. I don't like how they don't use quotes. Let's see if I can find a different one. Let's look at this one. This is a kid from 8th grade. Dignity and hope. The Great Depression. The Great Depression. Just the Great Depression. This notorious event put America's hope to the test, leaving America economically and mentally drained. The Great Depression devastated. They have a misspelling word here. America will never be forgotten. If not for Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his beneficial New Deal, who knows what another misspelled. Ruins will remain the result of the Great Depression. So you have to understand, like, when you have misspellings like this, it does impact your essay. With no dependable income, we cut back on everything possible. This excerpt from the story Digging In by Robert H. Hastings shows the situation that each and every American face. In the story, it is said that the family substituted toothpaste and toilet paper for soda and catalog papers. Even common necessities had to be sacrificed during the Great Depression. Again, misspelling words. This is a little better. So I'm getting a better understanding of what the Great Depression was, right? The biggest thing about informational essay, you have the hook, the overview, and the thesis statements, right? And then you have your the first reason, evidence, explanation, and this is going to be your first body paragraph. You can have another reason, evidence, and an explanation. In your second body paragraph, you can have the same thing, okay? If you don't want, you don't have to do these, right? It just depends how many pieces of evidence you want. Please remember to use quotes when citing when citing evidence from a source. Please push yourselves to have the proper amount of evidence, and also push yourselves to have a conclusion that has like a summary of what you've talked about. For example, this kid said, the Great Depression left America mentally as well as economically depleted. This event tested the will of the American people and left some citizens without any hope. With the help of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, America was able to get through the Great Depression with dignity and hope. So I hope that you understand the biggest difference between a narrative, an argumentative, and an informational, right? A narrative is a story. Argumentative, you are trying to convince the reader. And information, you are educating the reader. They all have evidence, right? But in the narrative, you don't. In the narrative, you don't necessarily cite the evidence, right? Like in the story of the queen that or the lady that was going to be put to death, it doesn't say it according to the source, but you incorporate what you learn, the evidence, into your story. In the arguments, you are trying to convince someone of something. For example, should we ban the fishing of lobster? Or should we ban, oil drilling, right? Should everyone be forced to drive an electric car? Everything you will need for your essays comes from your sources. I know that I'm not sure if SBAC has word counts, but your essay should be about 500 words plus, right? This one is going to be kind of, the structure is going to be interesting because it's a story. Argumentative, you're going to have a first paragraph, you're going to have the first body paragraph, second body paragraph, and then you might have your conclusion. You'll have your conclusion. And it's going to be the same thing for the informational, right? It's going to be about the same things. You have your intro paragraph, first body paragraph, second body paragraph, and then your conclusion. You're more than welcome to include another paragraph here somewhere if you want to. The more you write, the better it is. One suggestion that I have is, before you submit, check your spelling. Go back and read it to yourself a couple times. Because when you are graded, you'll be graded a 4, and a 2. And this 2, if you have a lot of misspellings or a lot of run-on sentences, or capitalization issues, it's going to become a 1 or a 0. I totally believe in all of you. You got this. I can't wait to see how you do because you're amazing. I'll see you guys later.